Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2020 Online Hope. I'm Carolyn Berry, the Executive Director of Alzheimer's Arkansas. I would like to personally thank you for joining us in today's program. Now, our team has worked very hard this year to ensure that we bring the same support, education, and resources that we always have. It has been a little difficult, however, not impossible. We do it for you, the caregiver. Now, a Hope is a workshop designed to help encourage and improve the caregivers in their caregiving journey. I hope this year's program provides you with that support. Now, we cannot do this without our sponsors. So we want to take a moment at Alzheimer's Arkansas in honor of the caregivers to thank our sponsors, Elder Independence, Everett Buick GNC, Avenir Memory Care, and CareLink. So before you hear from our presenters today, let's take a moment and let's hear from our sponsors. Thank you and enjoy the program.
We all deserve the option to live independently. Elder Independence Home Care makes it possible. From 1 hour to 24/7, our local compassionate caregivers are prepared to be there for you. Between bathing, dressing, meal preparation, light housekeeping, errands, and more, we want to provide the care you deserve, plus specialized aid for Alzheimer's and dementia, transportation to and from doctor's appointments, and hospice support. Caring is our calling. Let us be there for you.
Good morning, everyone. So great to be with you today. I hope you are all staying safe and well during this really challenging time. We know firsthand the strain and complications it's presented for caregivers and families and the professional healthcare community. My name is Kirsten Dickens. I'm the Executive Director of the Alzheimer's Association here in the state of Arkansas. I want to thank Alzheimer's Arkansas for inviting us to be a part of the Hope Caregiver Workshop. We're so grateful to have partners like them in our community to expand the level of support for those living with and dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with technology today as I go through the slide presentation. So please be patient with me. We've been asked to talk to you about Alzheimer's and dementia research today. Alzheimer's Association is a national voluntary health organization with chapters across the country and every state. We work to enhance care and support for people living with the disease and also to eradicate Alzheimer's through biomedical research. The multifaceted approach to end Alzheimer's is a great strength of our organization, and it's what makes us unique. Everything we do, care and support, advocacy, research, is rooted in the most up-to-date research in the field. The global scientific community knows we have a relentless focus on helping people and their families every day, so they work very closely with us to advance science in this field. So for our time today, what we're going to cover are the landscape of Alzheimer's and dementia science, highlights in early detection and diagnosis, the latest advances in clinical trials, treatments, and lifestyle interventions, and then lastly, how you can get involved. We may not have time for questions today, but we will be available for the panel discussion on Friday to answer questions. I'll also make our helpline number and my personal contact information available to you. So to begin, let's level set. What's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Some of you may already know this, but I think it's a good idea to start here. Dementia is a syndrome or a collection of symptoms. It is what the person experiences, not what causes the experience. Alzheimer's is a disease or the biological cause of the dementia. Dementia means that a person's cognition has declined to the point that it interferes with their activities of daily living. Dressing oneself, feeding oneself, taking medication, handling finances, etc. Things like that. We normally think of cognition as memory, but it also includes thinking, judgment, planning, orientation to time and place, like not getting lost. Dementia can also include behavioral and psychological symptoms such as agitation, aggression, sleep disturbances, depression, anxiety. There are many causes of dementia, but Alzheimer's disease is the most common form. Most people who have dementia have it because they have Alzheimer's disease in their brain. So one analogy that we can use to understand this better is likening it to pain. So pain can be caused by a broken bone, migraine, surgery, even cancer, or sneezing. Sneezing can be caused by a cold, allergies, exposure to dust. So Alzheimer's is what's causing the dementia, and it is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular problems, sometimes called vascular dementia, and usually that's anything that interferes with the body's ability to get blood, oxygen, and other nutrients to the brain while compromising its functioning. Another cause is Lewy body disease. You can see dementia with Lewy bodies and Parkinson's. There's also frontotemporal dementia. And there is, in addition to this, a longer list of causes, but these are the big four. The Alzheimer's Association provides care and support, and we do research into all causes of dementia, not just Alzheimer's. So if you or a loved one is dealing with another form, we're here to help you with that as well. Researchers now understand that cognitive impairment occurs across a continuum spanning many years. We start off cognitively unimpaired, but as we age, some individuals will progress to stages of mild cognitive impairment, or what we commonly call MCI. MCI is impairment that does not interfere with activities of daily living, but biological changes in the brain have actually started to occur. But if individuals go on to develop dementia, they will progress through mild, moderate, and severe stages. Dementia is defined as impairment in 2 or more cognitive functions that interfere with activities of daily living. Now, MCI is a known risk factor for dementia, but not all individuals who develop MCI will go on to develop dementia. However, everyone who experiences dementia will have at some point passed through a stage of MCI. This provides an opportunity for treatment and potential prevention. If we can prevent new cases of MCI at an earlier stage, we may be able to prevent new cases of dementia. Let's focus a bit more on the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease because it's the most common cause of dementia. Many of you have probably heard that Alzheimer's disease was named after Dr. Alois Alzheimer, a German neuropathologist. Dr. Alzheimer first described the disease in a landmark presentation about his patient, Augusta Dieter, in 1906. Augusta and Alois were living in a time of scientific revolution. The revolution at that time was the development of better microscopes and better tissue staining techniques. So his description included biological changes in the brain that included 3 specific hallmark changes. By looking through the microscope at the brain tissues, Dr. Alzheimer was able to note, first, a buildup of amyloid proteins in the form of plaques around the outside of neurons. Second, the formation of tau tangles inside of the neurons. And third, brain cell death, or what we now call neurodegeneration, that actually caused shrinkage, or what we could call atrophy, of the brain tissue in areas of the brain most important for memory, planning, and behavior. He proposed that these biological changes in the brain were related to the behavioral changes of the patient. The mark of Alzheimer's disease and the presence of beta amyloid plaques, tau tangles, and neurodegeneration. If you remember one thing from today, it should be this. Alzheimer's is not normal aging. Yes, age is the primary risk factor, but it is also the primary risk factor for many types of cancer. And no one thinks of cancer as a normal part of aging. Similarly, Alzheimer's is a specific brain disease, and just like we have defeated many types of cancer, we can also defeat Alzheimer's. Almost everyone experiences something called normal age-related cognitive decline. Examples of this might be hard to remember names and faces. Occasionally we forget where we parked the car when we leave the store, or maybe why we walked into a certain room. All of these are normal and do not indicate a person is on the way to Alzheimer's or another dementia. However, there are some risk factors that you cannot control. Age, genes, family history, which is more than just genes, race, and ethnicity. But some risk factors that we can control would be called modifiable risk factors. Examples of this could be cardiovascular disease, education, social, and cognitive engagement. And we'll talk a little bit more about research around some of these modifiable risk factors a little later. There are medications available to treat the cognitive symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Here's a list of some that are currently available. Unfortunately, these drugs do not stop or reverse the disease. Rather, they are cognitive enhancers, treating the symptoms of the disease, but not necessarily effective in all individuals. They can support a person's cognition for a period of time. On a population level, they typically work for 6 to 12 months. Some individuals may respond for longer. But the entire time a person is taking them, unfortunately, the amyloid plaques still continue to form unabated, and tau tangles continue to form. In addition, brain cells also continue to die. So it's similar to the analogy we used before around pain. Pain medication can treat the pain from cancer, but it's not necessarily stopping the cancer from progressing. Same with allergy medications for treatment of hay fever, but it's not necessarily going to rid you of the allergy. What we really want, our goal, are medications that would stop or at least slow the progress of the underlying brain disease. And the good news is that many medications in clinical trials today are designed to be just that. Something you may have heard about in the news is Biogen's announcement to pursue approval by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which we call the FDA, for the investigational drug aducanumab as a treatment for Alzheimer's disease. This decision by the company was based on an analysis of phase 3 clinical trial results that found a significant reduction of cognitive and functional decline in people with mild dementia and MCI due to Alzheimer's. At this point, the drug is available only to study participants who were previously enrolled in the clinical trials. So for now, and while aducanumab is under review by the FDA for possible approval, the company says it plans to offer access to the drug to eligible participants previously enrolled in the phase 1 and 1B and phase 3 studies and a safety study. This is a really important moment for the Alzheimer's field. For the first time in more than a decade, new treatment data will be submitted to the FDA for review. The Alzheimer's Association is really looking forward to the review of the Biogen data by the scientific community at conferences in the future. In addition, we know that everyone living with Alzheimer's and all who care for them are awaiting review of the data by the FDA as well. At the association, we've always advocated for full and accurate diagnosis and easy access to treatment for all affected when it becomes available. If the FDA approves this drug for the treatment of Alzheimer's, we expect that everyone for whom the drug was demonstrated to be beneficial will end up having access to treatment as soon as possible. It's exciting stuff. So some facts on Alzheimer's. Many of you know that the impact of Alzheimer's is staggering. More than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's today, and this number is projected to increase to nearly 14 million people by the year 2050. In Arkansas alone, there are over 60,000 individuals over the age of 65 living with Alzheimer's and dementia. There are over 16 million Americans providing unpaid care for those living with Alzheimer's. Here in Arkansas, we estimate there are over 172,000 Alzheimer's and dementia-specific caregivers. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death, with no treatment yet available to slow, stop, or prevent the disease. It's also estimated that Alzheimer's and other dementias will cost the nation $290 billion, and this will escalate to over $1 trillion if we do not have breakthroughs. It's unreal to think about that. It is more important than ever right now that we find a change the trajectory of this disease. And we will do that through prevention and hopefully more effective therapies and eventually, hopefully, an effective treatment. So what is the Alzheimer's Association doing about it? And so we've actually been instrumental in advocating for increases in federal funding of research, which allows for more researchers to get funded, and it ultimately accelerates the science. When it comes to research, we are attacking Alzheimer's from many fronts to know more about detection, prevention, early diagnosis, and treatment. We've worked intensely to create unprecedented momentum, raising the public discussion of Alzheimer's and dementia to the top of mind of the United States. We've increased federal funding for Alzheimer's and dementia research at the National Institute of Health. As you can see from this slide, we've more than quadrupled the dollars available to researchers around the country. And these dollars, as we've said, are crucial for moving research forward. The increased investment allows for funding of new and innovative ideas and helps to grow a legion of new researchers dedicated to the fight against Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And this advocacy is done by volunteers, folks like you, who work alongside our staff to share their stories and ask for more to be done. Alzheimer's is a global problem, and the Alzheimer's Association is working relentlessly to move research across the globe by connecting scientists, convening to share learnings, funding research, and catalyzing or kickstarting scientific programs. This disease requires a global response. One way we connect globally is by hosting our annual Alzheimer's conference. We call it AAIC for short. And AAIC is the largest meeting in the world dedicated to Alzheimer's and related dementia research. About 6,000 scientists from about 60 countries joined us in Los Angeles last year. We know researchers get their information from journals and meetings, and that's why AAIC and the Alzheimer's Association's 3 leading science journals are critical in advancing knowledge in the science community. AAIC is the premier annual forum for presentation and discussion of the latest Alzheimer's and dementia research. This year, because of the pandemic, we did have to pivot a little bit, and it was a virtual conference. And it actually attracted an all-time high participation of both registered attendees, which was more than 31,000, and scientific presentations or presenters, and we actually had more than 3,000 of those. The AAIC experience, being freely accessible and online, further enables the world's dementia scientists to share and discuss the latest findings, and a network to build new collaborations that generate the ideas that lead to a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. So we expect that going forward, we will keep the virtual component of this really important community meeting. Top areas of interest and discussion from this year's conference I wanted to share a little bit with you. I'm going to show these on a slide as well. These are a few from last year, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ones from this year. Research presented this year suggesting that flu or influenza and pneumonia vaccinations after the age of 60, as well as lower early life BMI, blood pressure, among other health factors, are associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias. So that was a topic with a lot of discussion and excitement around it since there were some new studies and science presented around this topic. Another area of real excitement this year was around blood tests. So blood tests that measure abnormal versions of the tau protein may, if verified through further research, diagnose Alzheimer's dementia without additional confirmation. That is, not requiring autopsy examination or both an amyloid and tau PET scan. So it's simplifying the diagnosis process. So that's super exciting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that science later on in the presentation. Another topic that was really highlighted this year was about heart health risk factors, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, and being overweight, as early as adolescence can influence late life memory and cognition, especially in the African American population. So definitely interesting to see new findings and research in that area. And lastly, one of the other big topics that gathered quite a bit of discussion and excitement was studies showing that higher quality early life education can be associated with better language and memory performance and thus lower risk of late life dementia. This association can differ between men and women and between blacks and white individuals. And so obviously excited to do more study and further research there. But those are just a couple of examples of some of the topics that were presented and discussed this year. So super exciting just to hear the new areas that are explored and what the opinions around the room can be. While we've been successful in scaling up dollars at the National Institute of Health for Alzheimer's research, there are some drawbacks to that. For one thing, NIH really only funds research here in the United States. So private philanthropy can actually fund anywhere in the world, and sometimes those are the best projects regardless of where they're happening. Today, the Alzheimer's Association has more than $167 million of grants in force, making possible more than 500 research projects in 27 different countries. And so here on the slide, you can see the countries in purple are where we have active grants. This is just a sampling and visual representation of some of our research programs. And you can learn more about our research programs we're funding on our website research page, which is alz.org/research. So if this is a topic that is really exciting to you and you want to dig a little deeper, I encourage you to check that out. The Alzheimer's Association has played a role in nearly every single significant advancement in Alzheimer's science to date. Our International Research Grant Program funds investigations to advance our understanding of Alzheimer's disease, identify new treatment strategies, improve care for people with dementia, and further our knowledge of brain health and disease prevention. And we have a strong funding history at many of our local institutions here in Arkansas. UAMS and the University of Arkansas are just two to name that are currently or have in the past received funding from the Alzheimer's Association for studies around Alzheimer's and dementia. So moving the needle on research. We're funding, convening, and leading research in a number of research priority areas: discovery science, early detection, treatment, and prevention. These key priority areas help to drive the research forward. They inform the structure of our international research grants program and other strategic global partnerships. We conduct and support research across the entire spectrum of Alzheimer's and dementia science, from the laboratory bench through translational studies and into the clinic. This is a tremendously exciting time in research. Sometimes it can seem like the news is full of negative stories, particularly when it comes to reports out on clinical trials. However, there is more excitement and more enthusiasm now than at any other time in history around Alzheimer's research, especially in the scientific community. One reason for that is that researchers have tools today that they never had before, enabling them to ask and answer new kinds of questions. In fact, you may not know it, but you are living in a new scientific revolution, the biomarker revolution. You may not be familiar with the word biomarker, but you are familiar with the concept. Has anyone here ever taken a cholesterol test or a blood sugar test? Those are biomarkers for heart disease and diabetes. A biomarker is simply something that you can measure in the body that tells you about a disease process. For decades after Augusta's and Alois's time, there were no known biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease. The only way to know who had Alzheimer's in their brain was to look at the brain tissue on autopsy, exactly the same way that Dr. Alzheimer did in 1906. But about 16 years ago, our grant program funded the development of something called amyloid PET imaging. Now, we can see who has the brain changes associated with Alzheimer's during life and before symptoms begin. That's huge. About 6 years ago, someone invented tau imaging as well, so we now have access to that. In fact, we can now see all 3 hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease in the living brain. However, these brain scans can be expensive and hard to get, so scientists continue to research new kinds of biomarkers such as spinal fluid, blood test, eye test, and even saliva. And what I can tell you is that the biomarker science is moving fast. Although it might not be available yet at your doctor's office, the changes in research and clinical landscape are catching up pretty quickly. We learn more and more every day about the disease, even how it will be diagnosed and is changing, allowing us to detect it earlier so we can properly intervene. Biomarkers are really helping us to modernize the diagnosis. We used to only diagnose individuals at later stages of the disease based on medical history and cognitive testing, but biomarkers have shifted the paradigm through brain imaging and biofluid analysis. We now know that clinical symptoms of cognitive impairment may be due to changes that are occurring in our brains and bodies up to 10 to 20 years before actual symptoms appear. And I know that can be scary to think about that, but it also represents an opportunity for better prevention, earlier intervention. We need to be able to identify who is most at risk for developing cognitive impairment and dementia, and we may be using these tools in the future to help diagnose the disease. We are making progress toward a more effective treatment for Alzheimer's and related dementias. In the future, though, treatment for Alzheimer's and other dementias may look a lot like treatment for heart disease does today. It's likely to involve a mix of medications and lifestyle changes, both for prevention and treatment. The good news on the medicine side of things is that there are currently more than 300 clinical trials happening as we speak for new drugs and devices. So the next time you hear about a drug trial failing, remember that there are 300 others still happening and more being launched all the time. For example, one game-changing program through the Alzheimer's Association is called Part the Cloud. This program only funds programs that are in early clinical trials with the hope to bring the gap between the lab, so for example, what happens with mice, and into humans to accelerate that discovery. Since 2012, $30 million has been funded in more than 30 trials through this program. This is just a sampling of some of the diverse approaches that researchers are taking to create better mechanisms. We leave no stone unturned. Researchers are looking at every possible avenue that makes sense, and Alzheimer's Association is funding studies in these areas and more. There won't be a quiz, so don't try to get all of this down, but know that many different avenues are under investigation. New targets and innovative approaches may lead to new therapies. The Alzheimer's Association just partnered with Bill Gates to raise an additional $30 million to double the Part the Cloud investment in research to $60 million. And these clinical trials will focus on 3 particular therapeutic approaches. First, brain cell metabolism and energy process. Second, brain cell trash and transport systems. And third, the blood vessels of the brain. The overarching theme for these clinical trials will be cross-cutting mechanisms of neuroinflammation. And you can learn more about this on our website, and that link is alz.org/SPEED, S-P-E-E-D. Of course, one of the areas where there are currently no medications approved for use in dementia is for the non-cognitive symptoms. We tend to think of cognition and dementia because it's part of the definition, but some of the non-cognitive symptoms can actually be the most disturbing and disruptive, as many of you well know. So researchers continue to develop medications for these symptoms as well. While finding the underlying cause of Alzheimer's and related dementia, there are clinical trials underway looking at therapies that are important to improve the quality of life for people living with dementia now. So let's switch gears a bit and discuss some of the latest trials that are happening in lifestyle intervention. Many of you have seen this particular clinical trial in the news. It was called the Sprint Mind study. Let me make sure my slide is cut up here. Yes. Release of the results from this trial made national and international headlines because the results of the study show significant promise for the dementia field. This study tested whether intensively treating systolic blood pressure, which would be controlling it to 120 systolic, would decrease risk for developing cognitive impairment and dementia. What's important about this study is that it investigators were allowed to use blood pressure medications or could advocate for changes in diet or exercise as a way to control the blood pressure. They actually found that controlling the blood pressure to 120 systolic decreased the risk for developing mild cognitive impairment and dementia. This is just incredible. You can see some of the statistics here. Sprint Mind is extremely important because it showed us through a rigorous trial that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. We need to learn more about the dementia outcome and the impact of blood pressure on specific diseases that cause dementia, but these results are a significant step in the right direction. What the study tells us is that there are things that you can do today to reduce your risk for developing mild cognitive impairment and dementia, especially related to cardiovascular health. And we have an immediate opportunity to be proactive about our cardiovascular health because we already have tools today, including medications and lifestyle interventions that could be life-changing. What would happen if we layer on additional components to a lifestyle intervention approach to reduce risk for cognitive decline? The Alzheimer's Association is conducting a landmark multi-domain lifestyle intervention clinical trial called the U.S. Pointer Study to look at lifestyle intervention and its impact on reducing risk for developing cognitive decline. This intervention trial will take place over 2 years with 2,000 participants across 5 geographically diverse clinical U.S. sites. North Carolina, Wake Forest is one, Northern California, UC Davis School of Medicine, Chicagoland, Rush University Medical Center and Advocate Healthcare, and Houston is another at Baylor College. There will be 2 lifestyle interventions compared, a self-guided and a structured group. The study will recruit individuals between the ages of 60 to 79 years old who are not currently experiencing memory problems, but must have a primary relative, so a mother, father, or sibling with history of memory problems, and they must have room for improvement in terms of their lifestyle behaviors. An example could be physical activity or healthy diet. U.S. Pointer will test whether 2 lifestyle interventions encouraging physical exercise, a healthy diet, cognitive and social activities, and health monitoring can reduce risk of memory changes in older adults at risk for memory loss. The goals are to better understand if we reduce risk of cognitive decline through a healthy lifestyle. Can we do that? If trial results are positive, an accessible and sustainable community-based lifestyle program for risk reduction will have been developed through this U.S. Pointer study. We are so excited to see the results from Pointer, but as with any treatment or intervention, we must wait to see the data to be sure we're making the best recommendations and creating the best recipe for lifestyle intervention to reduce risk. U.S. Pointer is actually part of a global initiative studying lifestyle and dementia risk. Not only are we an integral part of the exciting landmark U.S. Pointer study, but we're the host organization to bring the worldwide effort together through Worldwide Fingers. We need to address risk factors in a way that makes sense for people where they live and in a culturally competent way. For example, the way that people exercise and achieve healthy diet can be different in different countries. This consortium allows researchers across the globe to discuss study designs and find ways to harmonize the study findings from many lifestyle intervention trials. U.S. Pointer is the first of its kind in the U.S. and is based on this finger study, which started in Finland, which was the first of its kind in the world. Now there are about 25 countries, which you can see represented here on the map, worldwide, participating in similar efforts to see what the effects of healthy lifestyles might be on the brain health of their populations. All of the science we've been discussing today boils down to an effort to change the trajectory of Alzheimer's disease. We believe that if we can develop a treatment by the year 2025, that's pretty soon, it could be through medicines or through lifestyle intervention, that we could delay the onset of Alzheimer's by just 5 years. Then it is projected that 5.7 million people expected to develop Alzheimer's by 2050 would not. This would have a huge impact for our families and our societies. We're going to do it. One of the biggest hurdles to finding a treatment for Alzheimer's disease and other dementias is getting people enrolled and retained in clinical trials. So if you want to be a part of the solution, you might consider volunteering to take part in a clinical trial. Clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease are looking for healthy volunteers too, so not just those who are currently experiencing dementia. Trial Match is a great way to learn more about clinical studies that you might be eligible for. It's a clinical trials matching service, but it's important to know that it does not sign you up to actually be in the clinical trial. It simply allows us to send you information on studies that might be a good match for you. There are more than 350 studies on Trial Match, and no one has time to read through them all. But answering a few questions when you fill out your profile allows you to see a customized list. If you see anything you like, you can then reach out to the study team directly for more information and to express interest. You can sign up for Trial Match at alz.org/trial match, or you can always call our 1-800 number, our helpline number, to be connected with a Trial Match specialist who can support you through the process. Science moves fast, so stay up to speed if you can. If you want more up-to-date research news at your fingertips, please download our Science Hub app, or you can learn more at alz.org/Science Hub. And I'll have all these links to our website with page links to it, but there's so much information there. This new app is really exciting. It's new for us within the last year. There's so much information, and if you're like me and now you get all of your information on your smartphone, it's nice to have this at your fingertips. So in summary for today, what I want to express is that there is hope in research, and the Alzheimer's Association is leading the global research community. It's a very exciting time. There are new tools and technologies being developed every day to detect, diagnose disease, and better understand the brain. We hope you leave here today knowing more about research and how it relates to the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. There are new tools and technologies being developed every day to detect, diagnose disease, and like I said, better understand the brain. And there's more diversity in the approaches to therapeutics than ever before. We truly believe that new research is leading to a future of therapy that combines drugs and modifiable risk factor interventions. And always know that there is hope in research. It will be the way we discover a way to slow, stop, and prevent this disease and all other dementias. If you would like more information, as I mentioned before, please visit our website at alz.org or alz.org/research. You can also dial our toll-free number, which is up here on the slide for you, at 1-800-272-3900, literally any hour of any day for anything. So for general information, if you need some guidance and help, we're here as a resource for you, so please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting with you all on Friday.